1. Setting the tone, the late night ride. The story begins with a typical situation: an Uber driver working a quiet, late night shift. This establishes a sense of normalcy. The streets are empty, the atmosphere is calm, and the job is routine. However, as the protagonist continues driving, a creeping unease starts to develop. This sudden shift from normalcy to tension is crucial in building suspense. The quiet, deserted streets at night are often used in horror stories because they symbolize isolation and vulnerability. When you're alone in the dark, you're at the mercy of the unknown, and this sets the stage for a terrifying experience. 2. Shelley, the mysterious passenger. Shelley, the passenger, is introduced as an ordinary figure at first, but as the story progresses, her presence becomes increasingly unsettling. Her deep, gravelly voice immediately feels out of place. This creates a sense of dissonance for the driver. There's something about her that's different, but he can't quite figure it out. This subtle discomfort is one of the first signs that the story is veering into supernatural or psychological horror. The oddity of Shelley's voice and her strange, detached behavior looking through the driver, rather than at him, builds suspicion that she might not be who she seems. This disconnection from the world around her, her lack of interaction and distant stare, makes her seem like something otherworldly. 3. The growing unsettling atmosphere. As Shelley enters the car, the driver begins feeling the weight of her presence. He describes the air growing thick and oppressive, the car feeling like a burden rather than just a vehicle. This physical discomfort in the car acts as a metaphor for the psychological tension building in the protagonist's mind. The car, which is usually a familiar space, becomes alien and claustrophobic. The driver's growing anxiety mirrors the escalating strangeness of the situation. The driver's sense of otherness in the car, feeling as though there's more than just Shelley with him, is crucial. It suggests a supernatural element. The sensation of being surrounded by something unseen adds to the suspense, making the reader question if the driver is losing his grip on reality or if something truly malevolent is at play. 4. The unseen presence. The most terrifying part of the story occurs when the driver notices the strange shapes or shadows in the reflection of his rear-view mirror. This is the moment when the reader realizes that there is something really wrong with the situation. The shadows are not just a trick of the light, they are something unexplainable and supernatural. This suggests that Shelley is not merely a regular passenger, but possibly a manifestation of something darker, an entity that isn't bound by the physical limitations of the car. The driver's increasing paranoia and confusion show that he feels something more is happening, but he can't understand it. This heightens the suspense, as the reader is left in the same uncertain position. 5. The final moment, Shelley's disappearance. The climax of the story occurs when Shelley abruptly vanishes, leaving no trace behind. Her sudden disappearance without a trace plays on the fear of the unknown, a fear that something or someone can exist and then just as easily vanish into thin air. The eeriness is compounded by the fact that Shelley didn't answer when the driver tried to interact with her, and then she simply disappears with no explanation. The fact that the GPS also fails to provide a clear destination adds another layer of unease, as if the very technology that normally keeps the driver grounded is now betraying him, making him feel lost in a place he can't understand. There is a sense that the rules of reality no longer apply, and the protagonist is trapped in a nightmarish situation with no clear way out. 6. The reflection and the shadowy figures. After Shelley's disappearance, the driver sees a shadowy figure in the reflection of the rear-view mirror. The idea that something is still with him, even after Shelley has left, suggests a haunting. The figure outside the car represents the lingering terror, the feeling that something beyond the physical world is still watching or following him. This final twist plays with the concept of the supernatural being tied to the reflection, a classic horror trope. The mirror becomes a gateway to something unseen, suggesting that reality itself has been altered, and there is no escaping whatever force has latched onto him. The reader is left wondering if the shadow is a sign that Shelley was a ghost, a demon, or something else entirely. 7. The unanswered questions. The most terrifying aspect of the story is the lack of answers. The driver can't explain what happened, and neither can the reader. Was Shelley a real person, or was she an apparition? Was the driver hallucinating, or was there a supernatural entity in his car? The ambiguity leaves the door open for multiple interpretations, but it also leaves the reader with a lingering sense of unease. By not providing a clear resolution, the story taps into one of the greatest fears in horror, the fear of the unknown. It's the uncertainty of not knowing what's real, what's imagined, and what's lurking just beyond the edge of perception.